I get in the neighborhood.
Sorry, I didn't really get it. Oh, don't worry. I'm going to take a picture of the buttons.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Oh, except all I got is glare here. We're in the wrong place. That doesn't work. Yeah, there's too much glare. I can't focus. There we go. Take a dump on Trump and not my president.
I've restocked it, but there's nothing left to restock.
Already sold out?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
If we want to see real change, we can't let our attention simply focus on Trump. We have to build a fight against the entire billionaire class. The struggle for social, racial, and economic justice are inextricably linked. We have to unite our movements and fight together if we want to win. Just outside of Seattle, the two wealthiest people in the entire world live in splendor, while thousands of their neighbors are homeless, many commuting from jobs in the cities to tents at night to go to sleep. This is not a system I am willing to accept. Meanwhile, corporate tax rates cost us $150 billion a year, with 20% of big companies paying zero corporate taxes. Recognize that this is not just a Trump or a Republican problem. The whole system is guilty.
Yeah!
For years, establishment Democrats have argued that progressive taxation simply is impossible. But at the federal level, at the start of the Great Recession and the height of public outrage against the financial sector, Democrats controlled the White House, Senate, and House of Representatives. And instead of fighting white-collar crime and pushing through taxes on the billionaire class, they focused on delivering what the Dallas Fed calculated to be $14 trillion in bailouts to the corporations and super wealthy individuals who participated in the crisis. And we've seen it here in Washington State, when Democrats had similar control. And instead of doing something about it, they forked over $8.7 billion, the single largest corporate handout in history, while they continue to criminally underfund our education. With the power here today, combined with the thousands upon thousands of people who will be marching for Black Lives this afternoon, we could force our own city council establishment to pass a robust linkage fee, which would bring $1 billion over the next 10 years. Developer impact fees, business head taxes, these are just some of the things. And right now, there's a growing campaign to Trump-proof Seattle, led by the Transit Riders Union, which may lay the groundwork for a millionaire's tax. So I encourage you to join the movement in calling on council members to support this proposal. As a socialist, I am fighting for a better world. A world that is independent of the corporate system, where we have political parties that are independent from those corporations. A system that can truly end economic exploitation and racism and all forms of oppression. We must challenge a status quo which is willing to spend $160 million to build the largest police precinct on the entire continent, but will not spend the same funding on affordable housing or fight to fund social services. All of us must stand together with our sisters, brothers, and siblings this afternoon to end racist violence, displacement, and redlining. And we must demand more than that. Past gains have been won through mass struggle, where hundreds of thousands of people are active on a daily basis, building mass movements. In the months ahead, we'll have opportunities to fight. No ban, no wall, no raids, not one more deportation. Build real sanctuary cities, not sanctuary cities in name. Stop Trump and Ryan's assault on healthcare, defend Medicaid and Planned Parenthood. Defeat Trump's vicious anti-working class budget. No cuts to public education, mass transit, or affordable housing. We need Medicare for all with free and accessible reproductive care. No to Trump's military buildup. Stop the Republican war on the labor movement. No right to work for less legislation. Stop the war on the environment. Build the fight for a massive expansion of renewable energy. Defend the right to protest. Pass a $15 minimum wage on the federal level and tax the rich to fully fund human services, free college for all, cancel student debt, and Black Lives Matter, end the mass incarceration state. Let's continue fighting. Please join me at the march and rally this afternoon at 2 p.m. at Westlake and on May Day, International Workers' Day. Thank you.
All right, give it up for Rebecca. All right, our next speaker is here on behalf of Women of Color Speak Out, which is a collective of Seattle activists working to educate and inform our communities of the climate crisis. They connect global warming to the system of oppression and are focused on shifting the narrative of climate movement to one that is beyond the superficial causes to the deeper injustices of the world, by decolonizing their minds and their audience's minds. So please join me in welcoming Zarna.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. My name is Zana, and I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on stolen Duwamish land. That must be acknowledged. the first peoples of this land, the Duwamish, safeguarded this land and this water and this forest and these species and this culture for over 12,000 years. And in 200 years of colonialism, we have brought this land and this planet to the state of climate chaos. That is what has happened. And that is why colonialism is a root cause of climate change. At Standing Rock, we saw what happens when the indigenous peoples rise up to defend their land and their water. And when we, as people who are on this stolen land, also support them. We saw the power of that. And we know that that power will continue and it will go on. And when we are here today, demanding the tax releases of 45, and I do not say that person's name, they are 45. And the reason why is because a narcissist like that thrives when people say their name. That person is number 45 in a long line of racist, sexist, colonialist, capitalist, elitist, classist presidents. 45! That is what 200 years of colonialism has done to this planet. And that is why, when we are rising up for economic justice, for tax justice, we have to understand that small measures are not going to create the change that is going to save us. We are on the brink of climate chaos. Simply seeing 45's tax returns are not going to save us. That means we need radical change. That means we need to rise up from the grassroots. That means we need to be in solidarity with the First Peoples. I began by acknowledging the Duwamish because our federal government does not acknowledge them. They are not federally recognized. And because they are not federally recognized, their treaty rights are not recognized. The treaty that Chief Sealth, after whom Seattle is named, whose face is on the seal of Seattle, the treaty that Chief Sealth signed has not been honored. And it must be acknowledged that there can be no justice on stolen land. No justice on stolen land. That is why what the change that we need must be radical. It will not simply happen with a tame march. The 1% that 45 comes from must be shut down. We must stop them making money at every level, on every street corner, in every workplace, in every university, in every church. We must be rising up from the grassroots in solidarity with Native people, in solidarity with Black lives, in solidarity with people of color, in solidarity with women of color who are targeted the most by this racist, sexist tax code. We are in the era of climate chaos. I am not joking when I say this to you. My own people and my ancestors come from the land of India that has suffered horrendous colonial trauma. That is why I stand here today in solidarity with the First Nations of Turtle Island, because that is the original name of this continent, Turtle Island. So, when I speak to you, I'm speaking from the wisdom of my own ancestors. That is why I began with a prayer, because it is my prayer that we will come together. And it is not just a prayer, it is faith, it is belief that we can and we will protect life on this planet. Together, we have to change this tax code, shut down this system, and create justice for all.
One more time for Zarna. All right, our next speaker is actually my brother in labor. Bob Hasagawa is the state senator from the 11th district here in Washington state, which is one of the most diverse districts in our state. And Bob has been working for years on a more progressive tax code and on progressive tax reform. So please join me in welcoming my labor brother to the stage, Bob Hasagawa.
Thanks, April. Such a privilege to be introduced by my sister out of the labor movement, which is where my roots come from. I feel like the labor movement is the base for social change. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a little respite from the craziness in Olympia. It's so good to get with progressive, powerful people to be where the real world is, because Olympia is, I think, lost sight of where the real people are. There are no shortage of issues. We've got environmental calamity bearing down upon us. We've got racial injustice. We've got immigrant persecution. What is fundamental to most of society's operation, though, is the injustice around the use of our own tax dollars. We need to have a statewide conversation about comprehensive progressive tax reform that includes talking about a progressive income tax. Those who get the most out of society are morally and socially obligated to put the most back into society, so we can build a society that lifts all of us up, not just a few at the expense of the rest of us. So when we have that conversation about comprehensive progressive tax reform, I have a proposal in Olympia right now that is gaining more and more traction. And we are quickly approaching, and I'm pleased to tell you, we're getting near a critical mass in support of creating a publicly owned state bank here in Washington. So if you're not familiar with this concept, right now, when the state collects all of our tax revenue, state has to have a bank account. Well, guess where the state's bank account is? It's at the Bank of America. The city of Seattle has a similar issue. They want to divest for legitimate reasons out of Wells Fargo, but where are they going to put their money to? What's their alternative? To put it in Bank of America? So what we're doing is creating an infrastructure that will support the people in using our money for the purposes that we want our money used for. And what I'm talking about is, I've got this bill, Senate Bill 5464, creating the Washington Investment Trust. It will be a publicly owned bank owned by and for the people of the state of Washington. So we no longer send our tax dollars to Wall Street for them to use to make a profit for themselves. We keep our money in the state of Washington working for us. I'm hoping that we can get some traction before this legislative session is done. But the movement is growing. Whether or not we get actual legislation that moves us forward in this direction, I need all of your help to talk with your neighbors from around the state. And if you know anybody in Eastern Washington, please talk with them to talk to their legislators, because this is one of those issues that spans across party lines. We have a Democratic Party that is largely ruled by corporatists. We've got a Republican Party that is entirely ruled by corporatists in the decision-making positions. But we are humanists. We need to define what it is for a civilized society to uplift each one of us. So I'm asking you to talk to legislators around the state, or have your friends and families talk to legislators around the state to give serious consideration to this, because I will tell you, there are Tea Party folk who are just as anti-corporate as most of us standing here right now. And there is a vehicle for opening these conversations, not just around how we use our money, but on other social issues. So support Senate Bill 5464, and we hope that we will be able to recapture our tax dollars for the use of ourselves. Invest in Washington, not Wall Street. 5464, BOA out the door. 5464, BOA out the door. 5464, BOA out the door. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Okay, everybody, they say that life is 50% timing and the rest is showing up and looking good. You guys have shown up and you look good. So, here's the timing. I'm anxious to march, and I know you guys are ready to march with me, so we've got just 2 more speakers before we kick this march off. But they're pros, I promise you, so they're gonna keep it tight. Our next speaker, and it's a great pleasure to introduce her because she's also my personal friend, is Noelle Frame. She's a longstanding supporter of children, education, and mental health awareness. For 5 years, Noelle was the director of Progressive Majority Washington, where she partnered with communities of color, youth, women, and the LGBTQ community to increase the number of people from those communities running for office. And then she put her money where her mouth was, and she ran for office herself. And she's currently the state representative of the 36th Legislative District in the House of Representatives. And more importantly, Noelle is the vice chair of the House Finance Committee. That's the committee that's dealing with these tax reforms right now. So please join me in welcoming Noelle Frame.
Well, I've got great news for you, everybody. I'm the opening act to Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. All right, we're going to make this quick. This is going to be a little bit of a civics lesson. I want to say, first and foremost, I am Noelle Frame. I am the rep for the 36th District. And as April said, vice chair of the Finance Committee. You heard earlier about progressive tax reform and the measure that we are putting forward, HB 2186, to fully fund public schools. That's my committee, that's what I'm working on, that's what I support, and I need your help. I want to say thank you to the organizers today, because it's clear to me that civic engagement is up, but people know about federal politics, and frankly, I'm a little scared to say, people are not as tuned in to state politics as they need to be. I think we all know it, and I'm asking for a personal commitment to all of you. If you don't know who your representative is, not your congressperson, but your state representative and your state senator, to look that up at your next opportunity. I'm going to do a little demonstration here. How many of you care about fully funding our public schools? Put your hands up, cheer with me. How many of you know what the McCleary case is? Hands up. Okay, I am actually impressed. That's fantastic. We have been waiting, not for 5 years, folks, for 40 years. This state has been out of compliance with its own state constitution. We guarantee a public education to our kids, and we are not holding up our end of the bargain. We need your help. We need your help today. And I want to thank the All In team, but I also want to highlight Washington's Paramount Duty, which is over there somewhere. And if you have not signed up with Washington's Paramount Duty, please do so. Why does that matter? Because 2 weeks ago, when we had a hearing about that progressive revenue package, those folks organized like 100 people to come testify, and it made a difference, and we need you there at the next hearing. The last thing I'm going to say before I pull up Pramila, because I was asked to do so. When we say progressive tax reform, I am with Senator Hasagawa. I support a progressive income tax. I support comprehensive tax reform. And the package we have before you today is a step in the right direction. We are asking the corporations and the wealthy in our state to pay their fair share. We have put forward a capital gains tax to tax transactions like sales of stocks. I doubt that affects most of you. It affects 1.5% of the state. We have put forward closing some of those egregious tax loopholes. We have 700 on the books. It's egregious. We have put forward other taxes. I hope that you will help us solve this problem. I hope you will join All In and Washington's Paramount Duty and support us in fixing this tax code. I know you guys want to march. I know you're ready to march. And so I want to pull up April Sims and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal to close us out and get us ready to march. Thank you so much for being here today.
All right. The moment you have all been waiting for, right? Yeah. All right. So thank you, Noel. Our final speaker of the day is a true national leader of the resistance to 45 regime. Born in India, she exemplifies the enormous value that immigrants bring to this country. She has spent the last 20 years working internationally and domestically and in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors as a leading national advocate for women's, immigrant, civil, and human rights. And in January, she became your member of Congress, the first Indian American woman to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah, give it up. Give it up. And she's doing what we elected her to do. She's already fighting hard for all of us. Less than 2 weeks ago, she, along with Senator Bernie Sanders, unveiled legislation to make public colleges and universities tuition-free for working families like all of us. So please give a warm welcome and a hearty round of applause for U.S. Congresswoman from Washington's 7th District, Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you. Hello, Seattle. The sun is shining on our resistance. Do you see that? The sun came out to shine on our resistance. Give it up for my good sister and friend April Sims and the Washington State Labor Council, doing the work of working people every day, and my former colleagues and good friends Noel Frame and Bob Hasagawa. They are fighting for you in the state Senate, state House. And I want to thank the organizers of this march, as well as the organizers of the Black Lives Matter march that's following up right after this. These marches and your presence show us that Seattle is the moral conscience of the country, and we are going to keep it up. Now, I'm really proud to represent you in Congress. And it has been a fight, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a tough 3 months, but I am honored to be there to help do whatever I can to lead the resistance and make sure that we stand up for working families and Americans across this country. And Donald Trump and this Republican Congress is doing everything they can to destroy the foundations of a country that really is pro-worker, pro-immigrant, pro-women, pro-folks with disabilities, pro-a system that allows all of us to engage and to do better when we all do better. That's what we are fighting for. And if you're like me, there are some mornings when you get up and you think, oh my God, what's gonna have happened in the last 6 hours, right? But the important thing is that you are out here today. And if you think that your voice doesn't matter, let me tell you why it does. In the very first week that I was in Congress, Republicans proposed getting rid of the Congressional Ethics Office. And people across the country said, no way, you can't do that. And that is now, they had to pull back on that proposal. We won, and that is now the office that is investigating Devin Nunes for his collusion with the White House. And how about the fact that we do not have Andrew Puzder as Secretary of Labor? And how about this? Steve Bannon is no longer at the NSC. And probably the biggest victory was when we, Americans across this country said, hell no, you're not going to take our health care away, and we defeated Trump Care. And here's the thing about Trump Care. There's no way you can call that a health care bill. There's no way that you can call something a health care bill when it strips health care from 24 million Americans. That's $880 billion for Medicaid. That is not a health care bill. What it was, and the reason it's important to talk about it today at this tax march, is it was supposed to be a down payment on a tax bill that would be one of the biggest transfers of wealth from middle income and working families and the poor to the wealthiest in this country. That's what they proposed. And they started out proposing $660 billion of tax exemptions and tax cuts for the wealthiest, and then they went away and they came back with $1 trillion of tax cuts for the wealthiest in our country. That is a tax bill, and we stood up across the country and we said, no way. Town halls, telephone calls, marches in the streets, and we defeated that bill. You know, it was really interesting because I think, you know, this is not just a progressive issue, right? When you strip healthcare away from 24 million people and you give tax breaks so that if you're in the top 4% of income earners in this country, you are going to get a $200,000 tax break every year. And if you were between the ages of 50 and 64, then you are actually going to see your premiums increase by $16,000. And Americans are smarter than that because we have now gotten used to certain things. And if we are going to improve health care, that would be moving to a Medicare for All plan that helps us to address rising premiums and deductibles. So we know how to win. We know how to win. And it's not that we're going to win every battle, because I would be lying to you if I said that. It's going to be a hard road, and we're going to lose, and we've already lost some really important things. But we can stay united around this issue, taxes, which is, frankly, it's their next issue, but it was their last issue too. It's going to be every issue. It's going to be part of every issue they raise up. So Tax Day is next week, and I'm so proud to see such a huge crowd here and across the country, because we have to talk about what taxes mean. Taxes are what allow us to invest in our common good. They are what allow us to have schools and roads and all of the things that matter to a society to really have a democracy. But our tax system has to be fair. People have to pay their fair share. You can't have the lowest income people paying the most, which, as you heard from Noel and Bob, is what happens here in Washington State. The most regressive tax system in the country, where the highest income people pay 2.7% of their income in taxes, the lowest 20% pay 17%. That's just wrong. That's not how it should be. So we need to make sure that we are fixing that unfair tax system, both here in the state and nationally. But we also know that tax returns tell the story of our financial lives, and those who are lucky enough to have investments naturally might want those investments to succeed. And that is why when we elect a president to the United States of America, we want to see his tax returns, because we want to make sure that he is acting not in his own financial interest for his investments to increase, but in the interests of the American people. That is why it matters. And that is why every single president in modern history has released their tax returns until Donald Trump. Not only has he not released his tax returns, he said multiple times during his campaign that he would release his tax returns, and he has not done that. And now he says, he claims to reporters that no one cares about this except reporters. Well, I got news for you, Mr. President. That is your fake news. Americans across the country want to see your tax returns. Republicans and Democrats demand that you release your tax returns because that is about accountability and transparency. So just show us your tax returns and stop hiding. If we can see your tax returns, then we know exactly what you have or haven't paid. If we can see your tax returns, then we know when you propose a tax plan that benefits the wealthiest, whether you are going to be the biggest beneficiary of that tax plan. And if we can see your tax returns, then we know what financial investments you have that will cloud your policy judgment. What ties do you have to Russia, Mr. President? Who is investing in your hotels and golf clubs around the world, Mr. President? And will American foreign policy be determined by whether you and your family make money or whether it's good for the American people and their lives? So we know what tax reform should look like, and that's why, along with other Congress members, I'm calling for a financial transactions tax, a small tax on speculation on Wall Street. And Bernie Sanders and I, when we introduced our College for All bill last week, which I hope you get on board with and you help us fight for, we want to pay to invest in our kids' education so that they can get a better job. We want to pay for that through that financial transactions tax. That seems only right to us. So, brothers and sisters, the billionaires' budget that they released is about this too, because in order to provide that level of tax exemptions and tax cuts to the wealthiest, guess what that means? It means that they've got to cut everything that benefits all of us. And that's why you see a 31% in his billionaire's budget, a 31% cut to the Environmental Protection Agency. That is unacceptable. And that's why you see a 30% cut to the State Department and diplomacy instead of war. And that is unacceptable. And that is why you see a cut to the Department of Education and the Department of Transportation and every single institution that guarantees our well-being. So these are tied together. These are absolutely tied together. And the strength that I see is the hope that I see. The strength that I see right here. I'm a lifelong organizer. I came to politics as an organizer, and guess what? I'm still an organizer first. And what I know as a lifelong organizer is that strength emerges from times of crisis. That's what happens. And what happened after the election is a lot of people across this country woke up. And they realize that you don't get to say that politics doesn't affect me and that I'm not political and somebody else is going to take care of it. And you know what? The whole system is corrupt, so I'm going to stay out. You don't get to say that anymore because this is what we end up with if you do that. And so millions of people have come out to the streets, and the women's marches and the town halls and the rallies and all of your energy, that is making a difference, and it makes me so hopeful for the future. No more sitting back, people, because this is our time, our world, our air and water, our schools, our roads, our transit, our civil rights, and our country. So we are doing everything we can. The Democratic Caucus has been pushing, but we need your voice and we need your engagement, and that's why you're going to march today. That's why it's so important that you stay involved. We are using every opportunity on the House floor to bring forward what we call motions to recommit, and that basically is our opportunity in the minority to demand the release of tax returns, to demand that we have an independent investigation of Russian collusion with the Trump investigation. It's why we've introduced and I've signed on to the Presidential Tax Transparency Act. It's why we've introduced the Mar-a-Lago Act, which would require us to know who's meeting at that place. And it's why we continue to push for a real investigation of the Trump administration's ties to Russia, because the fact that a foreign government can influence our election and that we don't know who this president and his administration is accountable to is absolutely unacceptable. And the American people are ready to stand up and demand that we once again control our country and our democracy. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's go march, let's go fight, let's go win.
All right, are you guys ready to practice another chant with me? I'm gonna say, when our democracy is under attack, what do we do? And you're gonna say, stand up, fight back. You guys already know this, but let's try it anyway. When our democracy is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When our democracy is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When our democracy is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Oh, you guys got this. Okay, so speaking of standing up and fighting back, we have to create a little bit of space for one more group of speakers today. I know, but let me tell you, this is what resistance looks like. And we have a young group of activists who have been leading the way in social justice and resistance. Please join me in welcoming the Block the Bunker Coalition. Thank you.
Hi, this is Yin with Block the Bunker. I just want to say that first we were invited to speak, so we are not taking up extra space. I want to acknowledge that we are, like what my sister Zarna has said, we are on stolen Duwamish land. This is we are occupying the Duwamish, Suquamish, Snohomish, Muckleshoot, and many nations that we do not know that existed here because of colonization. And that's how we want to start our conversation.
Hey, I'm bipolar. That's my name. What I gotta say is the rich absolutely do have to pay. That is a reality. But when we think about tax, we gotta think about the role it plays in the situation. Because tax is a way that extorts the people. So when we think about using resources, we should put it in the communities themselves. Because when we pay tax, we're supporting genocide of the indigenous people and the occupation of this land by an imperialist, white supremacist, patriarchal, homophobic, transphobic system. We were supporting the bombing of Afghanistan. We're supporting the bombing of Syria. We're supporting the new juvie when we pay these taxes. New juvie that's built on poisoned land. We are supporting further extortion. We're supporting the police that occupy the space and kill our children. So we got to think about what we need to do to be accountable. And means being grassroots, standing up and doing the right thing. That means being accountable for our actions and where we go, the space we live in.
You all already
someone that's going to do this. There's always someone. There's always someone. Probably not the official meaning of the cup.
We were forced from our occupied lands onto this occupied land, and our labor is extorted and used to feed.
Yeah, probably.
And so when we have signs that say Black Lives Matter, when we acknowledge the land that this is Duwamish, stolen, post-Salish land, when we do all these things, and we march for these things, and when we say Black Lives Matter, then we must know that Black lives are stolen for labor, when Indigenous lives are destroyed for land, when our homelands are bombed to get more land, more labor, and more resources, when our money, our tax money is used to protect number 45, when our tax money is used to build more violence, a youth jail, a police precinct that's over-militarized. We are not just talking about cleaning up the tax code. We are wiping the floor with systems of capitalism that have been destroying communities, destroying lives for too long, too many generations. This is for all of our liberation, all of our people, all of our ancestors. There's no justice on stolen land, land that has been exploiting black and brown labor for too long. So not only must we be reformed for our liberation, we must divest our money, we must divest our institutions, and we must divest the behavior as individual people, as humans, to reclaim our humanity. Divest the behavior that continue violence of generations have felt.
So, speaking of divesting from cis heteronormative, I was out to call out all of the people where the
Well, the vast majority of people have left because they got bored. But I'm staying with the birds. Yeah, I know.
The police have it blocked up this way. This way's traffic.
The march is split.
Everybody will not correct themselves. Understand this. You are against Trump, right? That's exactly why Trump won.
All right, Seattle, we got a lot of opinions in Seattle and different views, and it's good to hear from everybody. Are we ready to march?
Yeah, most people already have.
Are we ready to go, Seattle? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to head this way. We're going to go on 2nd and Marion. We're
we're going to take a left on Marion and another left on Ford. But we want everybody going this way to show solidarity, number one, right? And number two, we've got some chants for you, which will be really nice. And we've got the Rise Up band that'll be leading us out here in just a minute. So when you hear the music going, start marching. Okay, ready? Here we go, Seattle. All right, I'm going to say, show me what democracy looks like, and you're going to say, show me what democracy looks like. This is 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 what democracy looks
So it's up to fourth, they're making a left on fourth, and this is about half, less than half, really, maybe half. This is nice.
We'll see.
No, it's always good. Just go in and I think people learn architecture and everything.
Heads up.
They did?
Hi. Heads up. Yeah, they're plugging this down.
We're fired up. Can't take no more. 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 We're fired up.
I totally
Are we walking to this way?